Hey, what's up, folks? Victor back again with Canine Peak Solutions, and I'm just hanging out here with Luna. See if you guys can check her out, holding the place. Okay, we just did some remote collar training, some conditioning, getting her conditioned to the remote collar, which is just a lot of treats, a lot of repetition, but she's doing great. What I want to talk about is why people struggle with their dogs pulling on leash. Okay, this is a big topic, and I get a lot of questions about this, so I thought I'd take some time and chop it up with you guys and make a video about this. All right, so the number one reason dogs don't do well on leash is because they're not trained to do well. And let me talk about this. Let me elaborate. So opposition reflex is so huge, and it's something that most dogs have. Okay, and what that means is when you're on a leash and I pull the dog's leash this way, natural tendency for the dog to do is go the opposite way. Okay, that's opposition reflex. And what most dog owners do at that point is they follow the dog, and they're teaching the dog to be a leader. They're teaching the dog to lead, and their dog's hacking if they're on a flat buckle collar, the dog's hacking down the street. If they're on a harness, the dog is pulling, immensely, and the owner's like, hands all red because they're trying to death grip the leash. Okay. So the first and most important thing, and to be honest, I think it's just like the most important thing when it comes to dog training, is teaching leash pressure and teaching and reversing that opposition reflex. Get the dog to follow the leash versus pull on the leash and move the opposite direction. Okay, and we do this in very sterile environments where there's no distractions, and you just start teaching the dog opposition reflex. And or you start reversing that opposition reflex, and you utilize a lot of treats if you have a dog that's food motivated or food, okay, their daily kibble. And what we do is we put the dog on leash, and you could do this with a flat buckle, you could do it with a prong collar as well, and this is the same thing as conditioning the dog to the prong collar, getting them to understand it. And the prong collar is a great tool when used properly. The problem is most people don't use it properly. But it is a great tool, and it's a great tool to leverage the owner's dog training ability and dog training skills, okay? Because most owners don't have a lot of dog training skills. They don't have the knowledge. They don't have the experience. So we utilize tools to, to help kind of mitigate and kind of balance out and leverage the training. So teaching dog to follow the leash, and how that would look is like let's say I start with a remote or a prong collar. And I pull gently on the leash, okay, just like this. All right, my head is the dog, this is the handler, okay? So what I would do is I'll pull, and then the dog's kind of moving, trying to just kind of staying stagnant, and I'm not allowing the dog to move any more than what they're trying to pull, okay? And I'll just hold it, and then eventually, over a little bit of time, maybe a couple seconds or so, the dog would start realizing, what happens if I do this? Boom, and they go into it. And when they go into it, we relax the leash, loosen up the leash, take off that tension, take off that pressure, and then we say yes, mark it with a good behavior, with the yes marker, and then reward the dog. And it's really that simple. And we do a lot of repetitions of that. And over time, what ends up happening is the dog starts understanding, oh, okay, when I feel this tension on the leash, if I move into it, it goes away, and I also get a treat. Imagine that, okay? So you're using two parts of operant conditioning. I'm not gonna give you guys a formal name because it just makes everything so much complicated, but the parts that are being utilized is you're taking away the pressure from the leash, right? So the dog's feeling that tension on the leash. It goes away when the dog gives in. That's an actual reward, believe it or not, okay? And then you're rewarding with an actual treat. So you're double dipping. You're rewarding the dog twice. You're rewarding the dog, one, for eliminating and removing that tension on the leash and that uncomfortable feeling, kind of, it's nothing crazy, but it is, different on the dog's neck when they feel tension. Okay, so we're eliminating the tension and we're giving the dog a reward. So it's a no-brainer. Okay, you win. It's a win-win for the dog, right? So we do that over and over and over and over again. A lot of repetitions inside a non-distracting environment, just where no other dogs, no craziness going around. The dog can focus on me, and I can focus on the dog. Okay. Following that, we start teaching other things, like, teaching the dog to sit automatically when we stop walking or when we stop moving. We're getting to down and getting into waiting at doorways and all this other stuff, right? And all these rules. And it sounds like I'm kind of, going off topic of walking on a leash, but all this stuff that I'm mentioning is huge, because what it does, it adds what do you call it? It just adds that foundation of like learning, and that foundation of leadership in our perspective to the dog, right? Like, we are the leaders. Okay, that's what we want the dog to understand. And when we apply rules and things like that, then the dog starts understanding it more and more, and we become more and more leaders, and then that stuff translates outside. Okay, but before I move forward, hey, if this stuff makes sense, or if you want to know some more information, be sure to click the link in the description. You can visit thecaninetraining.com, link up with us and see how we can help you out. We got different options that you guys can look into. But going back into the leash pressure and going back into why dogs struggle on leash, it simply is because lack of rules, lack of structure, lack of boundaries. Okay, opposition reflex. So we work on all that stuff collectively, and we build it into a bigger picture of the dog, and we slowly start incorporating more and more distractions. Okay, slowly start incorporating more distractions and using distance on our walks. We're trying to control as much stimulation that the dog is receiving, or as much stimuli as a dog when the dog's out on walks, and try not to get the dog into a situation that they're not ready for, to the best of our ability, because we can't always control what's going on outside. We can't always control what's happening. Loose dogs and other things like that, people and other things that trigger the dog, right? So we try to control that as best we can early on, and gradually build the dog up to be better and better and better in those situations. At the same time, also holding the dog accountable for the actions that we don't want, such as barking, lunging, growling, when they are getting into the stimulus environments, and they are getting, start getting into a heightened state of mind, right? And they start processing things that we don't want them to process, like loading, and loading is a term where, when the dog starts fixating, or the dog starts, holding their breath and staring at whatever it is that they're staring at, we have to interrupt that in a timely manner to prevent the dog from continuously loading, because the more the dog's loaded, the harder it is to knock the dog out of that mental state of mind. Okay, but if we correct it earlier, it's just like a good analogy is like a computer screen. Okay, if you ever look at like your computer, you're downloading something into the system, into the computer, you have a green bar, and on that green bar, it starts gradually going up, and once it gets completely up to the top, then the virus or the software that you're downloading is fully into the system. Okay, it's always going to be a lot easier to interrupt and bust that virus when it just starts, versus like when it's at like 95%, and now you're trying to the timing is running out, it's harder, whatever it is, so that's a good way to think about it when you're on your walks, and you start seeing your dog getting fixated on stuff, and you start seeing your dog just kind of starting to make those bad decisions. Again, we do correct that, and we do interrupt it, but we do it gradually. It's almost like flooding. With flooding, what that is, it's just a term where if you have like a very fearful dog, or a dog that, anything, right? We flood the dog in that situation in a way where it's not too much, but if I'm scared of something, I'm scared of spiders, I need to go attack that fear of me being scared of spiders. The last thing I should do is just like stay away from spiders entirely for the rest of my life. Okay, because I'm never ever going to address it, right? Same thing with dogs. If we have a dog that's reactive, then the last thing we want to do is just avoid reactive situations, or other dogs or whatever, right? We want to gradually flood the dog into those situations. So what that means is put the dog into those situations, and in a way we can control it. Right, I'm not gonna dump a million spiders all over my body if I'm scared of them. That's just gonna traumatize me. It's gonna make it worse, right? Same thing with a dog. I'm not gonna dump a dog into an environment where we're walking down the street and we're at a fence and walking literally right next to the fence, and there's 4 dogs just in the dog's face. you know, it's just not, it's too much, too overwhelming. We can't expect good results like that. So we have to gradually build the dog up for situations, and they get better as you do it more and as you put the dog into those situations. Okay? But yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. Okay, that's just me talking a little bit about why dogs don't do so well on walks and on leash and things like that. I hope this provides some good insight. If you guys are looking for some more information, if you guys are looking for some more help, be sure to check out the link below, theCaninetraining.com. You'll find some good stuff there. Just kind of go through the process and we'll be able to help you guys out. All right. Again, my name is Victor with Canine Peak Solutions, and I thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Say bye, Mama. Hey, Luna. Luna. Say bye. There she is. Where are you? Luna. There you go. All right. Later.